employee development program, just to put a little context behind it. So the development program is part of Challenger's strategic plan, and specifically, obviously, part of HR strategic plan. And so having a program like this in place is really going to help HR with a lot of processes, because it can kind of cascade down from this program into a bunch of other processes. So for example, like succession planning is one example. Candidate selection is another example of that. So this project, Sean and the resource managers, all the resource managers, have been working alongside with me to get the material together and get this program off the ground, probably for about the last 8 months or so. So it's been a pretty in-depth project. We're excited about it. This is phase 1 of the project. And in phase 1, we are focusing on the technical staff of the organization, so the office resources and the field resources staff. We do plan on expanding not only this segment of the project, but also the project all around. So we want to include all staff within Challenger, but of course we just wanted to kind of take a small chunk to get started. So as we go through this, I guess you can just keep that in mind. It's just a good FYI. So today what we're going to go through is we're going to go through an overview of what the program is. We're going to look at what a development process looks like. So kind of what's development in a nutshell. What are competencies? And then we'll go into a little bit of detail about what competencies this program includes. We'll look at the various components in this program. I'll give you guys an example of the documents that are included in the program. And then we'll talk a little bit about building a development and training plan. So what are the steps that you guys can go through? What resources are available to you to make sure that you can do a successful development plan? And then we'll talk briefly about roles and responsibilities in the program. So as I go through the presentation, feel free to interrupt, ask me questions. I'm more than okay to do that. I can breeze through this stuff pretty quickly because I've been working with it for the last almost year, and also I'm very comfortable with development. So if I'm going too fast or maybe I'm not explaining something, just feel free to interrupt me and then we'll carry on. So the program, as I mentioned before, it is part of our strategic plan. So that was part of the reason why we're unrolling this. But development is a key part in Challenger's vision and values. So it's really something that's quite important to the executive team, that we have a good development program and that we're developing all of our employees. So the program that we're going to review today, it's not intended to be like a rigid curriculum. It's not intended, you get Module 1 and Module 2 and, you attend X, Y, and Z class. It's really intended to be more of focus on the job, what you're currently already doing, but also giving you some avenues and providing some guidance in terms of where you want your career to go and how we can help you as Challenger to get you to where it is that you want to go. So giving you some opportunities to express that. If you have interests in different areas or interest in specific types of projects, it's really just kind of an avenue that I think is going to help in terms of identifying where you might want to go with your career here at Challenger. So the program consists of job profiles, training guides, personal development and training plans, performance assessment, so that being performance review, and there's also a competency inventory. We'll go into more detail about those components later on in the program. So when we look at what a development and assessment cycle entails, the first stage you would have your performance assessment. And so in the performance assessment, that's the opportunity where we as Challenger and you as the employee are able to evaluate your progress. So how have you been doing within the last year? And it's also an opportunity for you to kind of take a time out and communicate with your supervisor where you might want to go. So it just kind of opens the door to having that conversation. Doesn't mean you can only have that conversation during your performance assessment, But it is kind of a good way to remind yourself to have that conversation. From the performance assessment, we will maintain a competency inventory, and by we, I mean myself and Sean, so that we can look at competencies of the organization as a whole, but then we can also drill down by the individual so that we can help support the resource managers in guiding their employees if they need some assistance and support doing that. It's also going to help Sean with his role in the field resources training side of things, because we can identify where we might have some gaps as an organization that he can put together maybe more specific training for. So after the assessment, you will then build a personal development plan based on either areas within your assessment that are maybe a little weak and need a little bit more support and a little bit more training and focus, or they could be, the development plan could be focused on areas of growth. They could be stretch goals. So if you're wanting to move up or into a different position, they could be goals that are more focused towards you moving in that direction. And then, of course, you carry out your development plan, and that typically is going to happen on the job. There could be, as I mentioned, specialized training that maybe Sean is putting together or another resource manager is putting together, or there could be courses that you might want to take externally as well. So it could be a combination of any one of those things. But as the year goes on, you work towards completing your development plan, and then of course you would have another assessment at the end of the year, and then you would evaluate progress again. So that's kind of your typical development and assessment cycle. So competencies. So when I'm in the term of development, in the scope of development, when I'm talking about competencies, I'm referring to measurable, observable knowledge, skills, and or abilities that are critical to successful job performance. So that's what I mean when I'm talking about competencies. So some of the key word for me in that definition is measurable. So how are we going to measure your competencies? So the competencies that are included in this program, or sorry, how the competencies will be used within this program. So individual performance will be assessed based on the competencies that are assigned to your particular position. And then training will also be focused with the end goal of developing a specific competency or a specific skill. And then also we'll be maintaining the competency inventory, as I mentioned earlier, which is going to help us with more strategic training, but it's also going to help us on individual basis in terms of identifying where you want to go and what skills you need to be able to get there. So the competencies that are included in this particular program, we have 3 different categories of competencies. So the first being core competencies. And core competencies are competencies that we require all Challenger employees to have, regardless of their position. So examples are communication, teamwork, safety focus. Those are skills that we need all Challenger employees to have. Then there are position competencies. And the position competencies are specific to your position. So whatever position you happen to be in, we've identified specific skills that are required for you to be successful in that role. So some examples of those are equipment knowledge, CAD operation, data interpretation. So those outline almost kind of the skills that you need in order to function on a day-to-day basis. And then we also have technical competencies. And so the technical competencies are the knowledge, skills, or abilities that are acquired by participating in or completing the various projects that we work on within Challenger. So they're a little bit more specific to the types of projects, the skills that you would need in order to complete the different types of surveys that we perform here at Challenger. So it's not an expectation that everybody have literally all of the technical competencies, because that would be a little bit, that's a big thing to achieve. but also it's maybe not necessary. You know, if somebody only works on a particular type of project, why would we have an expectation that they can do all of these other skills that they might never ever come across? But we do need to know what technical skills people do have and kind of at what level they're at. So if it's a technical skill that somebody, you know, you've never come across, let's say underground locates, for example, well then we would know that you've never done that skill before and that you would need some training. Or if you've done it, you know, 1,000 times and you're excellent and you're fully competent, then we know that we can send you out there without any training. That's just one example. So the elements within the program, we have the job profiles. And so each position within the organization will have a job profile. And the job profile outlines the core competencies as well as the position competencies for the position of that particular job profile. Also within the job profile, it outlines the expected performance levels. So, you know, a drafting technician 1 and a drafting technician 2 will have the same competencies, but the expected performance level will be different for those two particular positions. So it really outlines kind of or demonstrates the progression between the different roles and maybe where you might need to focus some of your efforts if you were wanting to progress up into a different role. And then there's training guides. So the training guides will primarily be used as a reference document for yourself. So when you do have your assessment or you are expressing that you have an interest in another area or another position, the training guides outline activities, development activities that you can do to help you achieve or help you develop that particular skill or that particular competency. And then the training guide will also outline what training resources are available to the employee should you not know where to find them or you don't know what resources you should use. So it's a really good reference guide to help you put together a training plan or a development plan. And then it can also be used, like I mentioned, whether you're in your current role and you're just wanting to kind of get better at what skills you want and you need, or if you're wanting to look at a different position, you can look at different training guides to see what activities you can complete to get there. The Technical Competency Index lists the technical competencies that are available for you as you work on different projects. And so this will be used, this will be how we maintain our inventory of our technical competencies. So the Technical Competency Index is included in the assessment. We'll get to that in a second. But it does not have a direct impact on your performance assessment rating. And then there's performance assessments. So the performance assessments are the method that we're going to be using to evaluate how the employee is performing based on the expected performance level that's listed in the job profile. So this is how we will sit down and we will actually measure based on observations and based on the measurements that are listed within the job profile of how the employee is doing based on what we've laid out as the expectation. And then the personal development plan, that will be the tool that will assist you guys in creating an action plan that focuses on developing your specific competencies, whatever those happen to be, whether they're a core competency, whether they're a position competency or a technical competency. There is a lot of flexibility in what you can put on your personal development plan. And then, as I've mentioned more than once, I'm sure already, the competency inventory. So Sean and I will be maintaining an inventory, which will be based on what comes back in the performance assessment. Any questions so far? Okay. We'll look at the documents here. I'm going to pull up, I'm going to hand out some samples of the job profile and training guides. And then I'll pull one up here so that we can look at it. So the one that I'm handing out is an office example. And for the purposes of those who aren't able to attend, and for Phil, who is sitting here with us, the field one I'm going to bring up on the screen. So these documents will be posted on the intranet. They're not posted just yet. I will be sending out a link to everybody so that they can review all of the materials once they're posted. I am pretty sure that we're going to have this posted by the end of the week. I'm just working with IT because there's a number of links and whatnot within the document. So when you go to the intranet and you pull this document up, in the beginning, there's included an overview, which is essentially what we're talking about in this presentation today. Just in case maybe you weren't paying attention, or you've forgotten, or you're just really, really interested and want to read it again, all of the information is there so that you can refresh yourself with what we're talking about today. And then as you go through, at the back of the document, here's where you will find all of the program documents. So as you can see, in the field resource document, all the positions are listed there so that you have access to all of the job profiles within the field resource category. It's the same with the office. You will see all of the positions listed there. And then when you click on one of these links, you can bring up the job profile. So here's the Party Chief 3, for example, and it goes through all of the core competencies, and then here's the expected performance level. So it lists what we're looking for when we're going to go to evaluate this particular position. And then there's also the position competencies within the same document. So you can go through, you can read, and you can understand what the expectation is and what all of the competencies are that are assigned to your particular position. And then also in the same document, you'll find the training guide. So in the training guide, you will find each of the competencies that are assigned to your position. We give you again what the expectation is within this document so that you can refer to it relatively quickly. And then here you'll see there are all of the development activities that are listed, as well as any of the identified training resources that we've come up with that you can go and you can put that on your training plan. Within this document as well, there's the Technical Competency Index. So then that lists all of the technical competencies that you may come across, you may have the opportunity to encounter while you're working here at Challenger. Any questions about that so far? Okay, so that's what the documents will look like, and like I said, they will be posted on the intranet, and I will circulate an email so that everybody knows where to find them. So let's dive into a little bit more about the personal development plan. So what are you going to do with all of these resources? So the personal development plan is the tool that will assist you in creating an action plan to work on your specific competencies. Again, whatever those may be, there's a lot of flexibility with how we can work with this particular program. So using the training guide, that's one way for you to write your personal development plan, because they list all of the competencies as well as some suggested development activities. Now, those are suggestions. So if maybe that doesn't work with your learning style, or it's something that maybe you don't think for whatever reason will really help you that much. If you have a different idea of how you think you can learn that particular competency, you have flexibility. So you are responsible for writing your own personal development plan, reviewing that with your supervisor to make sure that it's kind of on par and that it's reasonable and realistic and all of those other good things. But really, you have 100% ownership of your personal development plan. So the steps to build a development plan. First, you need to identify the competencies that you would like to focus on. So there are 3 categories of competencies. There are a lot of competencies. It would not be very reasonable for us to think that you're going to put all of those competencies on your training plan for 1 year and and then you're done. I mean, that just doesn't make sense. So you need to prioritize, and a few ways that you can do that is having conversations with your supervisor after your assessment. What are the areas of opportunity that your supervisor sees? But also, where do you want to go? Like, what things interest you? Where do you think that the next step for you is going to be with Challenger? And kind of blending those together so that you can prioritize. And probably a good number for 1 year's training plan is probably going to be to focus on 4, maybe 5 competencies in 1 year. And then you need to identify a learning objective for each competency. So some of the competencies are relatively complex. It wouldn't be very realistic for us to think that you can put a competency down and by the end of the year you will know literally everything about that skill. It's unlikely to happen. It could happen, but it's more likely that you need to kind of break down the different components of that skill and focus on one of those components. And then maybe next year your goal or your task will be to focus on another component within the same competency, depending on how things are going. So the learning objective is designed to help you so that you can focus in on one area of that particular competency. And then list the action items that will help you in acquiring your learning objective. So what are the things that you're going to do that are going to help you develop that particular skill? These can come from the training guides, or again, they can kind of come from what you think that you would like to do. This can be a course. This can be, going and sitting down with somebody who's more experienced in that area and learning from them. It can be kind of any combination of different things that's going to help you learn what you need to learn. And then state the expected outcome. So why we want to state what we're hoping to achieve is this is how we're going to measure whether or not this particular item on your plan got completed. So by stating how we will know when you've achieved your learning objective, that's then at the end of the year when we go to look at the completion of the training plan, we will know whether or not that item was in fact completed. So it helps us to give a measurement, and it helps us to measure the success of your development plan. And setting a target date. So it's important that we do set a target date so that we're a little bit more deadline focused, and it kind of gives us a little bit of kind of drive to work through and carry out the plan in a timely fashion. Now the training plans, the development plans, are not intended to kind of act as handcuffs because we all recognize that things can go sideways sometimes, and things happen, and maybe your deadline, you had good intentions of getting things done within the next 3 months, but you just couldn't make it happen. That's okay. You still just work towards getting it done. It's not going to penalize you. It's just helping you to focus and just be a little bit deadline oriented as you work through your training plan. So a technique that is used for goal setting, and this has been used for years and years and years, and it's kind of proven to be relatively successful when it comes to goal setting, and that is whether it's here at work or even just on your own if you're setting goals. This principle can certainly help you do that. So the acronym is SMART. So we like to set SMART goals, and we do that by being specific, setting measurable, putting some measurements in place. They need to be achievable, realistic, and time-bound. And the development plan that we have come up with actually is laid out in a way that helps you use that principle when you're setting up some development goals. So I will hand out a sample here of an example of a completed development plan. Field 1 again, I'm going to put up on the screen here. And so this is what the development plan, or part of it, because I couldn't fit the whole thing on the screen, but this is the important part. So here we have the different sections. We've got the competency, we've got the learning objective, the action items, et cetera, et cetera. So the first section is the competency. So that is us being specific in the goal. So what specific competency are you going to be focusing in on for this particular development cycle? And as I mentioned, keep your, be realistic here. So you're not going to put every single competency down. I think a good number is probably going to be anywhere between 4 and 5 competencies for any one period. Again, discuss that with your supervisor. Make sure that you guys are both on the same page and happy with where you're going. And then the learning objective keeps us realistic. So some of these competencies could take a number of years to fully develop. Could be based on the type of work that we have, and maybe you just won't have an opportunity to get as in depth as you could. Or it could just be that the competency itself is just relatively complex, and so you just need to narrow in on one section of the skill and focus on that for this particular year. So that keeps us realistic. The action items in the plan are the actions. What actions are you going to take? Are you committing to help you develop this particular skill? The expected outcome, that's the measurement, right? And then the target date is what keeps us time bound. So that's the SMART goal setting philosophy, and it's laid out right into the plan. And then the action items, again, those can be taken directly from the training guide, or you can come up with some of your own activities that you would like to complete. And the development plan is, it's intended to be a tool to help you guys. So as the year progresses, if things are happening or not happening, please go to your manager and have a conversation with them. One particular item on your plan, maybe this is just not going to be, it's no longer realistic based on the projects that you've been getting, based on, any number of different things that could happen. And so there's nothing stopping you from going to your manager and saying, you know what, I don't think I can get this done. And either they can help you work through those roadblocks because maybe there is something that can be done, or maybe you need to update your plan because maybe now this is a goal that's way over here and you need to be over here now, and that's okay. This is a working and a live document, and it's here to help you. So if it's going to end up handcuffing you, then it's not going to work, right? So that's okay. And then what's going to happen at the end of the year is when you go to do the performance review, this plan gets sent back to both you as well as your supervisor so that you can review it and you can update your completion section. So what did you get to? What did you not get to? The completion dates do not need to be exact. It's just a matter of, yeah, I did complete this, or no, I didn't complete this. And then you can carry forward things onto the next plan if you need to. Or again, you might want to focus on the same competency, but now you're having a different learning objective for the next year. Make sense?
Is it the idea here to get word SMART?
Well, it's it's there. It's just in a different order. Yeah. Because setting it out that way, I didn't like the way that chart looked. So I mixed it up. Yeah. Okay. So the overall process will look something like this. So you will sit down with whatever the appropriate resource manager. You will have your performance assessment. Either Sean or myself will record your assessment based on that evaluation in the inventory so that we can keep track of everything that's happening. After your performance assessment, you will do your learning plan, your development plan, and then you will review that with your manager so that you guys can both agree that it's following the SMART, it's where you want to go, it's helping you to get where you want to go. And then as the year progresses, you work on your training plan. And then as the development year comes to a close, which is typically about this time of year, it will get pulled out. You guys will review it at the same time that you do your performance review, and then you will do another development plan. So the resources that are available to you the job profiles, which are going to be posted, the training guides, your development plan, which I'm sure you guys will all just tack up onto your wall, and Phil, you'll probably laminate yours so it doesn't get doesn't get destroyed, right? I'm sure of it. Your reason. Yeah, exactly. The resource managers, obviously, are a resource, and then Sean is a resource for anybody who is working in the field as well. So roles and responsibilities within the program. So HR, our group is going to be responsible for overall management of this particular program. All of these documents are intended to be live documents, living documents. We do want to make changes as things progress, as our organization changes, as we're getting feedback on how the documents are working, what we've missed, what could be amended. We'll be doing that, so please bring me your feedback after you've lived with it for a little while. Sean, the Field Talent Development Lead, he's going to be working on following through on training plans for the field side. He'll be giving feedback to employees and managers on how things are going. He'll be updating the field technical competencies as people are acquiring different skills throughout the year. He'll be helping to identify gaps and anticipated training needs, and then coming up with ways to help support the field resource group in various training endeavors. Resource managers will be delivering performance reviews. If they're on the office side, then looking at what gaps are there with their groups, and then coming up with whether it be finding external training or putting on internal training to address any of those needs. And then also very important is conducting those planning and kind of career discussions with you guys when you're having your performance assessments. But also this should be happening on an ongoing basis. So I would recommend not waiting for the end of the year to have those conversations with your supervisor. And they don't need to take very long. If you just have 5 minutes on the phone with somebody, or something has come to your mind and you just want to have a chat about it, they can be really, really quick discussions, but they should be happening all the time, and I would encourage you guys to be initiating a lot of those conversations. And then the employee, obviously communicate where you want to go. Like, what are your goals? What are your objectives? Because that's how we can better support you in figuring out how we can get you there. We need you to be actively involved in creating your learning plans, your development plans, and in carrying out your development plans, and in communicating if you're having challenges with completing your development plan for that year, so that it doesn't come up as a big surprise at the end of the year that nothing got done, even though it wasn't necessarily anyone's fault. It's just kind of sometimes the way it happens. But you need to keep your supervisor informed of where you're at with that, so that A, they can either help you, or you guys can submit another plan, make some amendments. Any questions about that? So we are at the end of the year. This program is intended to kind of follow the same cycle as we've always been following with performance reviews and assessments. So we are going to be starting our assessments anytime. So the resource managers are going to get started on that. We're hoping to have them all completed, including the development plans, by the 18th of December. So you can expect to have a meeting with your supervisor anytime between now and the 18th of December, basically. And if you have questions in the meantime, feel free to reach out to me. I can answer them, or to your supervisor, and I'm sure that they can probably give you some information as well. And if there are no other questions, that's about all that I have for today.
So is this kind of a template of what we have to fill out?
Yeah, that's an example. Yeah.
For what we have to hand in.
Exactly. Yeah.
So when I will be doing it, what job should I change?
I'm going to have to get back to you on that.
So
yeah.
It takes time.
Pardon me?
It takes time. So what do I put for my timesheet.
Yeah, I'll have to get back to you. I'm not exactly sure, but I'll get back to you on that. Yeah, I'll send out some instructions on that. I think so. We'll probably have to set up a specific. Yeah. Yeah. Anything else, guys? You can start working on your plan right away. Absolutely. That's a really great idea. Yeah. And I am hoping that all the forms, etc., will be posted by the end of the week. So, you know, you can start thinking on it now. But I can also send you a Word document. That's not the final document if you want to start typing away. Okay, anything else, guys? Okay, well, thank you very much. Thank you, Kevin.